Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. On behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you joined us for our annual OTCQB Venture Conference. Our next presentation is from Waste Energy. Please note you can submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through Book Meeting tab in the top toolbar. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Scott Gallagher. He's the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Waste Energy Corp, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol WAST. Welcome, Scott.
Thanks for having me, John. Appreciate it. So Waste Energy is we're traded, obviously, as I just said, on the OTCQB. We are a waste energy company focused on converting plastic and tire waste into usable energy assets and diverting resources from the landfills. So before I begin, there's obviously a disclaimer, which essentially says everything that we're discussing here is based on information we have today and is subject to change. I would definitely encourage everyone viewing this to read that thoroughly and just understand at the end we will be discussing some projections, and then those projections are management's best guesses of where we are, where the company's headed in our view, but they will always change, good or bad. So I would encourage everyone to read the disclaimer, check all of our filings on sec.gov. We're fully reporting. Obviously, you can reach out to me. The information will be at the end. So Waste Energy was formed for a very specific problem. Initially, it was started, we built a technology that's based on a heating technology that's been around for a very long time. But our technology is designed specifically to address two waste streams. One is waste tires, and the second one is plastic. These two waste streams are very problematic and prevalent across the U.S. When we looked at this opportunity, specifically myself, when I joined the company, didn't realize it was as bad as it turned out to be as we dove in and did additional research. These two waste streams, specifically used tires and waste plastic, do not degrade. Tires take centuries to degrade, so do plastic. And what that tells me is that nobody really knows how long these waste streams really degrade, because no one's going to be around to find out. Yet today we generate about 50 million tires per year that get dumped in the waste fills, in the landfills. We are opening in Midland, Texas, our first location, which I'll discuss a little bit later. But specifically as it relates to us, in Texas, there's 10.4 million tires every year getting thrown out into the landfill to sit there for centuries to degrade. As you'll see, that's about 20% of the waste tires in the U.S. That's specifically related to the fact that Texas is unique in two ways. One is the state of Texas is the largest creator of fuel in the nation, but it's also the largest consumer of that fuel too. So there's heavy industrial operations, specifically where we are in the Midland, Odessa area, but throughout the state. So they have a higher percentage of tires generated in that state, hence the 20% number that you see there. When you switch over to plastic, the situation is very similar. There's about 40 million metric tons of plastic generated each year. Roughly, our numbers are actually more than this, but roughly 32 million tons, or in this slide it says about 80%, go into landfills. The getting an accurate number is difficult, but we think it's more like 90 to 95% are going to landfills. We've traveled the country, I've been to many transfer stations and landfills, and most of that stuff that's cleaned and baled sits there till they can't hold it anymore, and then they dump it in the landfill, and it doesn't degrade for several hundred years. Again, as it relates to Texas, there's about 5 million tons going into landfills every year. There's about 3,000 active landfills in the U.S. and 10,000 non-active landfills in the U.S. And a lot of these landfills, just before I move on, are scheduled to close in the coming years. There's some specifically in states, I won't mention them, but they're within a year or two, and they're still generating garbage from 30, 40 different counties all over the state, because nobody really knows what to do with this. States are trucking garbage from one state to another to try to find a home for it. So the problem that we're addressing here is prevalent, and it's pretty much in every state in the country. When you think of states like California, you would think they have a better handle on it, but they're one of the top shippers of garbage, plastic in particular, to other places like Mexico and offshore. So this problem is prevalent. It's coast to coast. It's growing. It's not slowing down at all. And we identified an opportunity here to build a business and do something positive at the same time. So why Midland? Obviously, we've looked at several states. And in hindsight, I'm not sure why we didn't land on Texas earlier, because Texas is the energy capital of the country. And we looked at several locations within the state of Texas. When we contacted the state of Texas, they knew exactly what we were doing. There was no learning curve at all. As we kind of discussed what our business was, we landed in Midland specifically due to the need for our the customers of our product that we're going to create from this tires and plastic waste. Midland, again, as I mentioned, is a heavy industrial area. Trucking, oil rigs operations are prevalent throughout the entire Permian Basin, which is that entire area. So for us to be located there gives us two key components. There's two main parts to our business. There's an intake side and an outtake side. For the economics of the business to work really well, you need to be close to the source on the input side. So within Midland, there's an enormous amount of tires and plastic that will more than fill our needs to run our machines. We've already signed our first agreement that will fuel our first 15 tons of operations, which we're starting here in about a month, which I'll discuss a little bit later. And then going forward, as we scale up, there's more than enough there to fuel everything that we need to do. I've got some numbers in here just so people can kind of get a sense of the market and what it is, but we're not one of those companies that, if we get 5% of a giant market, we're going to be rich. It's not really, doesn't work that way. So we have the inputs there and we have the outputs there. A standard oil rig uses 2,000 gallons of fuel a day. So just in the oil industry alone, there's many other uses for it. There's a massive need for what we have. So that was the main reason we selected Midland. We also found a very good location that fills all of our needs, can scale to 60 tons per day, and we got an option to buy it, which was very important for us. As we think about the market in general in our business over the next 2 to 3 years, establishing in Midland is key to develop the relationships within the state of Texas. But the next market that we would seriously look at, and we've already started to try to identify some locations, is the Houston market. Houston presents a completely different opportunity, really, than Midland does, specifically because you've got the port and you've got this massive market in the city of Houston. So those two factors display a need of what we do. There's several 100 million gallons of fuel used a year in the city of Houston. Then you've got the port with barges and shipping side. So we've got a massive fuel demand in the city. It also, the proximity to some of the other states and the other opportunities that we've looked into, this presents a really good opportunity. So what I want to do on today's call is discuss the Midland market where we are today, and then obviously where we're going to go from there. Already having the permitting process and operations up and running in the state of Texas makes Houston a logical step for our next move. And then obviously all the rage today is the future of AI and data centers and the need for power, not only on AI, but you've got the rise of blockchain and these crypto treasury businesses popping up. That's a massive market. Our company launched the first ever full-length feature film as an NFT. So we're very familiar with the blockchain side of the business and AI. We've had high-level discussions with a few data center and companies that run data centers already to potentially design more of a backup fuel source for them. I don't see what we do as being a primary fuel source for a data center, but they use so much energy and they can't afford to have these things go down that we do provide a very reliable strategic backup for a data center. There's also some carbon and ESG value that we can provide to a data center or a hyperscaler. So that's an area that we've already had some discussions. They've actually reached out to us about opportunities within that sector. But those are basically as you think about the business, we've got Midland today. We will look at Houston and other markets. We've explored opportunities in 4 or 5 different states now. And then, of course, we've got the opportunity to potentially power an AI data center, which again, one of the key about our system, which again I'll discuss a little later, is that it's a modular system. So if there's a data center somewhere, we can locate close to that data center, use the local waste streams to provide energy for them as a more of a redundant backup feature. And then essentially what we've done here is come up with a just kind of a summary of what our business potentially could mean in terms of its effect on the environment, the impact on the environment. If we successfully scale these 2 locations that I'm talking about, which are essentially Midland and Houston, to 60 tons each, which our system can go up to 100 tons per location. But these 2 will be, we envision this first one to be 60 tons per day. And then Houston, we're looking for a minimum of 60 tons per day capacity. Over the next 10 years, we would generate over 400 million gallons of clean fuel derived from waste. We would divert over 4 million tons of waste from landfills. So for us, again, when we think of this business, the economics are very, very strong with it, and they're not going away anytime soon. All these different factors, whether it's electronic vehicles, blockchain, AI, just growth in the cities, and the misuse of these waste streams, not really misuse of them, just not really having a solid handle on what to do with them, hence the 90% plus plastic that ends up in a landfill and the tens of millions of tires that are ending up in landfills. That problem has not been solved by anyone yet. So over this time, over the next 10 years, we would have a dramatic effect on things that are important to us. We would be able to directly impact microplastics and the problem there. We generate tens of millions of dollars in revenue if we successfully execute our plan. And we'd also create, good, solid, high-paying jobs that cannot be replaced by AI along the way within these sites. So this, again, I wanted to, as you think of investing in a company, looking at a company, this is the economical or ecological impact potential for our company if we're successful. So a short summary of our core machine in the business. It's very simple, really, in terms of what we need. We need to secure the feedstock. We've already done that. We've locked in local partnerships. We've talked to a lot of people in different locations too. Most of the feedstock providers are reaching out to us to then say, can you build a site close to where they are? Our ability to convert it into a usable asset. And again, that's the carbon black diesel fuel syngas, which runs our system. So these are self-sustaining systems. So we generate the fuel that runs these systems. And then, of course, the carbon credits. And carbon credits, we are filing a patent to automate that process. We're using some AI and sensor technology to kind of try to take the human component out of the carbon credit creation. And we think that we can do that. So we filed a patent on that piece of the business. The ability to monetize it basically on all those outputs that I just mentioned. Again, we'll be looking for, and we are in talks with outtakers right now. And I'm sorry, off-takers. And the off-takers that we're in discussions with will buy everything we do at 15 tons and 30 tons and 60 tons. So the comments I've gotten from all of them that we're talking to are, we can't make more fuel than they can buy because there's such a need for it. And then obviously our ability to scale based on the modular component to our business, that these systems can be set up in as little as 6 months or even less, especially as we kind of move through this. We're setting up our first one now, and then we'll immediately go scale that one to 30 tons from 15 tons. It's a 15-ton system with a distillation plant as well. That distillation plant can handle 30 tons. So we'll be hopefully scaling to 30 tons by the end of the year. Once that system's up and running, that's our model going forward. And I think we would be able to scale that up in a new location inside of 6 months. From the feedstock side, again, just to give a little kind of perspective, we're going to be functioning, we're going to be running our business in Midland, Texas, and potentially in Houston after that. As far as the waste streams in Houston, there's more than 10 million tires a year being sent there. Roughly on a truck tire, you're talking about 50% of that tire is fuel. On a car tire, it's about 35%. So when you get illegal dumping and you get these tires laying around like this, and especially in Texas where it's very hot, you've got problems. You've got potential for tire fires, which are very hard to put out. And we've had, like I said, we've got a very good response and already locked in enough feedstock to fuel our entire business to date. And everything on the wheat feedstock side, which is super interesting from a business perspective, is free or better to us. And what that means is we're not paying a dime for any of the feedstock. The feedstock providers will either pay us or we'll take it for free. Many times, mostly in the tire side, they're running these trucks 2 hours away to pay, in some cases, thousands of dollars to dump this stuff in tipping fees. So they can come to us. Obviously, anybody in Midland, it's a shorter drive. You can keep it right in the city, and then we'll charge them a heavily discounted rate. In some cases, we'll do it for free. But we get so it's kind of unique, and from a business standpoint, that instead of a cost of goods sold, we drive revenue from our inputs, from our product sources. So that's an interesting fact, I thought. Same thing when it comes to plastic feedstocks, the same thing. We're looking at almost 5 million tons of plastic a year going into Texas landfills, more than enough to fuel all 120 tons of our business at full capacity just in the state. And we could do more than that, but that's kind of at this point in the game over the next 36 months, that's the capacity that we're looking at. Same scenario. We don't pay for plastic. We can also, it's unique in this business, there's essentially, as far as I'm aware, there's really two types of businesses. There's businesses that feed plastic into their systems to create a compound to make new plastics. They sell that back to the chemical companies to make more plastic. In order to do that, you have to have a very clean and pure feedstock stream. For us, we don't need that because every piece of plastic that we touch, every used tire that we touch is eliminated from the system. It's taken out. It's never going to a landfill. It's gone. So for us, we can process any type of the 7 plastics. PVC we can't, but the other 6 of the 7 plastics we can process within our system and create fuel from it. So we're in a unique scenario there. Also, again, going back to the modular piece to our business, there are many large facilities that have had problems or even gone bankrupt over the last few years because they've tried to set up these massive facilities in a state that cost $500 million or $1 billion, and they can't get that pure feedstock stream in order to fuel that system. We don't have that problem, and we will never have that problem because our systems will be strategically placed around the country, close to the source of where the feedstock is, and hopefully where the customer is as well. But so within Texas, we're as far as plastic is concerned, we're 5 million tons a year going into landfills. We would try to get as much of that out of the landfills as we can, and so there's plenty there. We're in really good shape and on the plastic side. And again, it's kind of summarizing our waste energy conversion system. Essentially, it's a modular design. It's closed loop on the thermal side, so there's no combustion. So the chamber is heated up, the gases are separated and captured, and that's where we make all of our product from. So it's a closed loop system. One key component that we decided right from the get-go is that we wanted to make sure that our emissions, we're very focused on making sure the emissions are scrubbed and controlled in an environment that's transparent, that we have the data. It's part of our patent is that we're going to capture this data using AI and sensors, and then compare it to what's the acceptable limits are. Send that data to a blockchain. It's dropped into an NFT and certified every day, so we'll know exactly what they are, what our emissions are, and we'll have a record of that ongoing. We start out of the gates. We purchased an emissions control system that's EU compliant, which is substantially more strict than the U.S. So right out of the gates, we're coming out with a EU grade compliance relative to emissions, and then our system will be built on top of that to further make sure that both our facilities are safe for our employees and our workers, but also the communities that we function in. That's something it's at the top of our list. And obviously the fast deployment of these systems, multiple revenue streams, that kind of thing, make them from a business perspective very attractive to us. So where are we now? We have now, for our first system, we procured, it's fully built. Some of the pieces we did purchase. So they are coming in, some from Canada and other areas. So we are now sending all of that material to Texas. We anticipate it being there within the next couple of weeks, for sure, in the month of August. And then it's going to take us maybe 7 to 10 days to put this all together. So we expect to be up and running by September 15th. We're in the process of perfecting our patent and getting that filed. We've secured the feedstocks agreement to fund this, to fuel this first machine. And obviously, as I mentioned before, we have secured a 4-acre site, just under 4-acre site in Midland, Texas. And we also have an option to purchase that, which is one of the key requirements that we had for the business. Okay, so here is, again, on this slide, I want to harken back to the beginning and just encourage everyone that these are estimates. We feel very solid estimates based on the business today. So this business that we're in is not a huge business in the U.S. for a variety of reasons. A lot of them are the environmental media side to it, but whatever. It's not prevalent here. It is in most of the rest of the world. So when we when we calculate our outputs and our inputs that are required to generate these outputs for this business, we're not shooting in the dark. These are based on operations of other sites and partners that we have around the world. So for our first 15-ton per day machine, we're expecting to generate somewhere around 1.3 million gallons of fuel per year. Now that fuel could be, in order to be road fuel, would have to be further refined. There's other filings. We're not set up to do that out of the gate. We will down the road, but that's not our business. Non-road fuel, it can be used for, again, up in Midland for the oil fields, rigs like that. And then there's the tire manufacturers are a huge market for us. So there's a bunch of different off-takers. We're talking to several of them, and we expect to have that first agreement signed and in place before we turn the machine on. But that'll be roughly just over 1.3 million gallons per year. We'll be generating about 27,000 tons of carbon black per year. Carbon black is another compound, specifically when it comes to tires, that we get out of the tires after they're heated and everything is separated. And the interesting thing about carbon black and the tire manufacturers is they already know what's going into the tire. So we're taking a tire, we're heating it out, we're capturing all the assets from that tire and then selling them back to fuel and the carbon black. Well, they know what's in it because they made the tire. So they're kind of shaping up to be a very strong market for us. And we're in talks with a few of them now to try to ink an offtake agreement. And again, all the offtake agreements that we're discussing will buy all of this fuel that I'm talking about today, and then even our Houston location would not make a dent in what they already use. The machine provides a syngas that I mentioned. So one of the gases that is captured from our process is captured, put back in a tank, and sent in to fuel the heating process of the chamber. So that's we're not using electric to do that. And then lastly, the carbon credits. Which carbon credits, we're going to focus on generating the carbon credits based on our patent application, which is using the AI, making sure that they're automated and that this data is captured, it's sent and compared to the algorithm required to make a carbon credit. And then a carbon credit is made or not made at the end of that day, and it's dropped into an NFT on the blockchain. So there's an immutable receipt, basically, of all that data from that day. So we have a patent on that, or patent pending on that. That is something we'll be developing over this first year. But we expect carbon credits to play a role right out of the gates. So on the 15-ton per day system, again, depending on how many days a year we operate and what the inputs and outputs, they're a little different. Car tire is different than a truck tire. So there's some variables there. But we are expecting somewhere between $5.5 and $8 million in sales in the first year. Now, as you can see by my quote there that I put in, it says we generate profitable revenue starting on the day we turn on our machine. We do. So our models are all showing that this is a very profitable business from day one. Obviously, a model is always going to have things that you can't expect in there once you hit the real world. But the margins are such here that we're very confident in saying that we will be a profitable business from day one with each location that we open. The second area assumes that is scaled to full capacity on the Midland site at 60 tons per day. And so the numbers obviously are higher. You're talking 5.2 million gallons now per year, more carbon credits, more carbon black, and revenue in the range of 22 to 32 million. Again, there's a wide gap there because any of the models that we run, you change the type of the inputs from a car tire to a truck tire exclusively, that changes the outputs. So we did the best we can. We really wanted to give people some kind of an understanding of what this business is and what we expected from an economic standpoint. We're trying to run it as efficiently as we can, which will be reflected in our next quarterly filing that will be coming next week. We've cut expenses over the last year as we repositioned the company to just focus on this specific business. And efficiency is our top concern. Hence, again, the reason why we want these systems close to the source, so we don't incur all these shipping and trucking and logistics problems and fees and costs that hit our P&L. So that's what this is what we feel. Top line is phase one, starts in September, and then we feel within 12 months we can scale this to the 60 tons per day. The rest of the slides here are our management team. On the day-to-day, we have myself. I've been in the public markets for over 25 years, run startup companies, scaled up to tens of millions of dollars in revenue, profitable revenue. Scott McBride is our president that will run the Midland site. He's got a degree in environmental sciences, a master's in education, been involved in the public markets also for a very long time. So a great guy to run it. Braden Glassbergen is our CFO. Braden's actually worked for the company that our prior CFO worked for or ran for many years. So he's been involved with the company for several years. He knows the ins and outs, and he's very good with public accounting and making sure that we're compliant and we adhere to all the ever-changing SEC regulations. Stacy Dixon is going to be our director. He's going to work under Scott and hand in hand really with him. Stacy's a retired 22-year Army Staff Sergeant. Great guy to have just to run our crew and build this site out. There's a lot that's involved here, and we're very pleased to have all these guys involved with the company that'll help us build this from the ground up. Scott and Stacy. Scott's already on site. Stacy will be coming on very soon once the machine is up and running. We hit the next part of it. We'll be staffing up that site. Our board of directors are Scott and myself, and also Ed Moy. Ed Moy was the 38th director of the U.S. Mint. Got special skill set for us. He served under the Obama and Bush administrations, and he helped staff up the Department of Energy. So he's got a unique skill set relative to all these different things that we're involved in on the Web3 side, and obviously on the energy side with his contacts have been super helpful. Great guy, very knowledgeable, experienced director on many NASDAQ companies, brings a lot of experience to our company, and has just been a great asset for us. And then on the advisory board, I think one of the unique things on this company that I've never seen before is our founder is a guy named Cameron Chell. Cam actually founded this company along with several other companies. He's kind of a serial entrepreneur kind of guy. And he currently today is the CEO of a NASDAQ company called Dragonfly, which is one of the oldest drone companies in the world. So just from time constraints, and I've known Cam for over 20 years, and getting access to him, he agreed to become our chairman of our advisory board. So we have access to him as needed as this company scales. Cam has scaled businesses from nothing to over $1 billion in market cap and hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. So he's a great guy to have access to, and he chairs our advisory board. The second guy is a guy named Leonard Enriquez, brings a very unique skill set to us. I'm very happy to have him on board. He's an MIT graduate, but more importantly, Leonard's entire professional career is spent in the waste energy businesses. He ran a series of waste energy sites in and around Miami, Florida, and that area that did about $200 million a year in revenue for an international company called Veolia, which was a French company, which was the largest waste energy company in the world, or one of them. And he helped them orchestrate I think he got up to $2 billion acquisition for that company. And he grew the network that he was at from 200 million to 1 billion, and from around 200 employees over 3,000. So He brings a great skill set and knowledge base to us, especially as we design this first site. His company is called Cambridge Project Development, and we've retained them to help us on the build out and design of our first location in Midland. We're looking forward to working with him a lot. Jimmy Geiskov is another great asset for it. Jimmy is also a lead director of a NASDAQ company. That's $20 so per share, been in the public markets a very long time. He also was on with the former board member, and just is very good at compliance and SEC reporting and business building, and has a stellar career involved in public companies and everything he's done. And he's a super valuable asset for us on a whole bunch of different fronts as we scale up this business. And lastly, on our advisory board is a guy named Ken DeCipio. Again, couldn't ask for stronger people to be involved with us. Ken is, as you'll see on the quote there, and he's on our website. He's closed business in the billions of dollars of value for a major company in Central Florida and an array of industries. So it seems like he's one of those guys that if you need something, you call Ken, he knows somebody in that space. So that makes up our advisory board, which again, I'm privileged and grateful to have access to them, and all of our management team is, as we kind of move into this now revenue side of the business, which again is revenue on day one. And that's it. So I've got my contact information up here, and I'm very responsive to emails. My email is sg@wec.eco. Our website is www.wec.eco. And again, I want to thank everybody for taking some time to join us today, and I appreciate it. Have a good day.